This is Gina. Thank you for joining me for this Astrology Chat Live. Today, I want to focus on why it's a good idea to read horoscopes using your rising sign or your ascendant. This is something I've been meaning to talk about for a while. I have my computer here. I hope that there's not a strange glare. Perhaps that's a little bit better. I know this is sort of an amateur setup, but I wanted to show these charts in order to show you what astrologers use to create horoscopes, how they're created, and why it's important to use your rising sign or your ascendant to read your horoscope rather than your sun sign. So, you know, this is a very common thing but to read your horoscope for your rising sign. Most people do, but if you only look at horoscopes for your rising sign, which do have some, or for your sun sign, which do have some accuracy in some way, you could be sort of missing out on some of the best of what astrology has to offer in terms of cycles and timing. So that's really what I wanted to explain today. So the sun in astrology represents, and I'll get to these charts in just a second. The sun in astrology represents your core identity, the sort of biggest and brightest side of your personality. It's often a side of you that kind of jumps out. It's the most obvious. I think of the way in which the sun in the sky is so big and bright compared to these other planets, right? So there's a good reason why we all identify with our sun sign so strongly. But when it comes to horoscopes, when it comes to timing, when it comes to the layout of the houses, that is all about your rising sign, okay? So basically, the way a chart is set up, I wonder if I can sort of zoom in on one chart to make this a little bit easier since we're talking about it. Okay, this is a chart for Aries because I have Aries here in the first house. So the way that astrology works is that your chart is set up with your rising sign, your ascendant on your first house. And then as it goes around the chart, each of these different houses control, rule over, signify different life areas. So this is all about the way the sky looked at the moment someone was born, right? We create a natal chart and we have all the planets in the sky right where they were when they were born. And on the ascendant is what was rising in the east on the horizon at that moment, the zodiac sign. So the placement of everything is really what determines the things that we use to talk about timing, right? So if you're an Aries rising and I take today's chart, this is today's chart. Today happens to be, you can be watching this anytime, but today happens to be February 8th, 2025. If I take today's chart and I line it up for Aries, then I put that against your chart and I can see where the planets are for you. And then I can do the same for Taurus. Let's back this up again and show you the wheel for today for all 12 signs, right? This is something that astrologers would use to create horoscopes. So this is the same chart. It's just turned a different way. As the day progresses, we get into the next sign. Let me see if I can sort of show you and work through them. It just turns the wheel. So here we have Aries. Aries is rising, right? And these planets are coming up over the horizon. And then this is the western horizon. These planets are invisible and below the horizon. Generally, we're speaking here. Okay, then just a little while later, we have Taurus on the horizon. And we have the planets having moved just a little bit. Move to Gemini. See, they continue to move through the sky. To Cancer, By the time we get to Leo, those planets are starting to set. So it's the same chart for today. It's just at different times, depending on that rising sign. And that tells us about timing, because it's the house system that controls things related to, that's about what sectors of the chart are being activated and what life areas. So for example, if we have this Mars retrograde in Cancer, right? For Aries, it's falling in the 4th house. For Aries rising. And the way we know that it's in the 4th house is because I put Aries here. That's a rising sign. That's not a sun sign. The sun can be anywhere, right? I am a Libra rising, and this is the way the chart is turned for me right now. But my sun is here in Aries, right? The way our sun sign is so significant in astrology because it is about our core identity. It can tell you so much about your personality, about what you're here to do, about your own sort of unique path and energy and journey in this life. When we're looking at things related to timing and how the current sky is lining up with our natal chart, for that you use your rising sign. Some people might feel like, but why is it that when I read a horoscope for my sun sign, it's so accurate, right? Why is that? And that could be the case. You know, astrology is a very interesting thing. It is sort of both an art and a science, like so many things are. And the way that we engage with it has an impact. And I think that the way that we engage with everything has an impact. And it can be easy to sort of not see that or not know that. But we're all contributing to the world around us. So without getting too deeply into it, I will say that if you don't know your rising sign, maybe you don't know what time you were born, or you're just not yet aware of your rising sign, you're not at a point in your astrological, education where you've learned that information, your sun sign will feel pretty accurate when you read horoscopes. But as you move into it more and more, as you learn more about astrology, that rising sign is going to resonate more and more. So the sun sign horoscopes can speak generally about certain energies related to your core identity, and things like this. But if you're really looking for timing, where is this Mars retrograde sort of showing up for me? That's a rising sign thing. So I wonder if anyone has any questions. I feel like it was harder for me to explain than I meant for it to be. Maybe I'll give this another try someday, but I hope that was a little bit helpful. It's interesting just to see this chart anyway for today, right? With all of the different charts. So I hope that was helpful, and I appreciate you watching. And I have horoscopes up on my channel now that you should read for your rising sign. I just put them up for February 2025. And I'll be doing them throughout 2025. And I'm also doing these daily astrology lives. So they sort of complement each other. So be sure to check out those horoscopes if you haven't already on my channel for February for your rising sign. And thank you so much for being here. I'll be back again tomorrow.